On paper, it meant nothing. Just another preseason game in August. The Cleveland Browns beat the Philadelphia Eagles 22-13. No stakes, no injuries, no drama, just football, right? Wrong. Because what happened off the field that night sent a message straight to the top of the NFL. A message so jarring, it triggered emergency meetings at league headquarters, rattled executives at top media companies, and caused billion-dollar sponsors to hit the panic button, all before the third quarter. Why? Because exactly 3 million viewers vanished the moment one rookie quarterback didn't take the field. Not because he was injured. Not because he was cut. He was just rested. And that single coaching decision may have just exposed the NFL's deepest, most dangerous secret. You'd think it would take years, maybe a full season, maybe a breakout playoff run, for a rookie QB to become the centerpiece of the NFL's attention. But Shedeur Sanders didn't wait. He didn't climb the ladder. He skipped it entirely. From the moment he stepped onto an NFL field, Sanders became something far more disruptive than a promising young quarterback. He became a movement. His name exploded across hashtags, his clips flooded TikTok, and NFL marketing departments didn't just notice, they pounced. Behind closed doors, the message was crystal clear. He wasn't just a player, he was the product. Before he even threw a regular season pass, the league had begun crafting an entire narrative arc around him. Branding teams rolled out teaser reels like it was a blockbuster movie release. NFL promos leaned almost obsessively into Sanders' charisma. By the time preseason rolled around, Shedeur wasn't just included in the broadcast plans, he was the centerpiece. His debut, 8.7 million viewers. That's not preseason traffic. That's playoff-level engagement for a game that didn't even count. For the NFL, that was proof. Proof that the younger audience, Gen Z fans who don't watch full broadcasts, don't stick with single teams, and don't care about franchise history, would still show up if the right face was on screen. And Sanders wasn't just a face. He was Deion Sanders' son, a swagger-filled, media-trained, camera-ready highlight machine who already had a built-in following from college ball. He represented every single thing the NFL needed to stay alive in a world of cord-cutting, endless scrolling, and fanbase burnout. He was a bridge between the traditional league and the new-age viewer. From a business perspective, it was perfect. Broadcast deals from Europe and South America specifically requested Browns games, not for the team, but to see Sanders. Social teams had highlight packages ready before the opening snap. Fantasy platforms promoted him like a top 10 vet. Advertisers were already gearing up for holiday campaigns centered around his name. It didn't matter that he hadn't proved himself in a real game yet. Because in today's NFL, attention is worth more than touchdowns. And Sanders had attention. In an era where fan engagement is less about final scores and more about viral moments, Sanders felt like the league's golden ticket. Anytime he touched the ball, it felt like something could happen. Slow-motion replays, behind-the-scenes mic'd-up content, branded Instagram stories, sponsor tags, reaction videos, every play became packaging. To most fans, he was electric. To the NFL, he was essential. Which is why what happened next was so shocking and so unbelievably costly. Because just 1 week after the NFL sunk millions into making him the face of its future, he didn't play. No alert, no build-up, barely any explanation. And when kickoff came without Shedeur Sanders on the field, millions of viewers tapped out. That wasn't the reaction of a disappointed fan base. That was the reaction of a platform built entirely around one person, suddenly losing him. And for the NFL, that meant one terrifying thing. They weren't just marketing a quarterback. They were betting the future of their business on him. And the moment he sat out, the entire empire built around him began to collapse fast. As soon as the cameras panned the Cleveland sideline and Sanders was nowhere to be seen, it started. Quiet at first. An awkward shuffle in the commentary booth, tentative tweets, confused Reddit threads, viewers assuming maybe he'd show up in the second quarter. Maybe they were just easing him in. But he didn't play. Not in the first quarter. Not in the second. Not at all. And the impact hit faster than anyone could believe. Within minutes, viewership began to nosedive. The same game slot that had drawn 8.7 million people just 1 week earlier. Now it was struggling to hold onto 5.8 million, and that number wasn't just low. It was catastrophic. A nearly 3 million viewer drop in 1 week. That isn't a decline. That's not a dip in interest. That's a mass abandonment event. League analysts didn't even try to soften the language. Internally, they called it the cliff. Not because of who was on the field, but because of who was. And by halftime, it got worse. Ratings plummeted another 18%, pushing the total viewership loss to one of the worst in 7 years for any preseason game. And the worst ever for one that featured 2 playoff contending franchises in a primetime slot. Fans weren't just checking out, they were leaving. Switching to YouTube. Scrolling TikTok. Choosing Netflix over the NFL with zero hesitation. It didn't matter that the Browns were playing well, that their defense stepped up, that the run game looked balanced. On paper, it was solid football, the kind of quality on-field product that the league wants to rely on. But none of it mattered. Because the fans weren't there for the football, they were there for Sanders. And when he wasn't part of the product didn't exist. Social media managers were left scrambling. TikTok accounts that had racked up tens of millions of impressions from Sanders' clips suddenly struggled to break 10,000. Instagram Reels got buried by the algorithm. Even Twitter, always up for debate and real-time riffs, had nothing to push. No storyline, no spark, just a void. And when that void hits every platform at once, that's not digital fluctuation. That's a commercial disaster. Within 72 hours, NFL shop traffic dropped over 40%. Thousands of Sanders jersey pre-orders were canceled. The Browns team store was stuck with unsellable overstock. International stream engagement dropped by up to 35%. In South America, entire broadcasts lost traction overnight. In Europe, fans messaged broadcasters asking if Sanders had been cut. In Asia, headlines translated into genuine confusion. Why wasn't the NFL's star QB playing? Executives at broadcast networks sat in post-game meetings completely stunned. Ad partners, the same ones who'd signed on for Sanders-branded campaigns, started to panic. A player who had been positioned as the growth engine for the NFL's youth audience had just vanished from the screen. And with him, the numbers followed. What makes this moment so terrifying for the league isn't just that ratings dropped. It's that they dropped only because one name wasn't in the lineup. It revealed a brutal truth they've tiptoed around for years. The NFL doesn't sell football anymore. It sells attention. And on Friday night, without Shedeur Sanders, they lost it instantly. But buried inside that disaster was a second gut punch. Because it turns out, the NFL knew this could happen and warned Cleveland ahead of time. And the Browns ignored it anyway. The ratings collapse might have shocked fans, but behind closed doors, it was not a surprise, at least not to the NFL. Because according to multiple insiders, the league knew this was a possibility. In fact, they didn't just suspect it. They warned the Browns in advance. Sources say that in the days leading up to Friday's nationally televised game, NFL execs made it crystal clear to Cleveland's leadership. If Shedeur Sanders plays, ratings spike. If he doesn't, the game could totally flop. And these weren't vague suggestions. These were data-verified projections, backed by real numbers from Week 1 viewership reports, preseason social analytics, and international demand indicators. They had charts, graphs, direct evidence that millions were tuning in just for Sanders. More than that, the league had spent the entire summer building its early season promotional machine around him. Broadcast partners had placed special requests for Browns games to include Sanders. Marketing departments designed preseason ads around his highlights and mic'd up footage. International streamers were pushing campaigns specifically featuring him. So when news leaked that Sanders wasn't playing, the NFL didn't just feel disappointed. They felt betrayed. League Commissioner Roger Goodell was reportedly furious. Sources close to the situation say he personally contacted the Browns' ownership group after the game, and it wasn't a friendly check-in. Executives weren't scrambling to fix a promo plan. They were triaging real damage. And the reason is even messier than fans realized. You see, Shedeur Sanders wasn't pulled due to injury. There was no setback, no medical limitation. He was fully suited, fully active in practice, and ready to go. So why didn't he play? According to internal sources, the decision came straight from head coach Kevin Stefanski, and it had nothing to do with health. It was a coaching philosophy move, a load management call designed to protect the rookie's development. Translation: he was sending a message, "I'm still in charge." It's not unusual for coaches to rest key players, especially in preseason. But when the entire weight of your league's digital engagement, branding, and international exposure hinges on a single person, that kind of call becomes more than just a game-time decision. It becomes a statement. And that's what makes this so explosive. Because this wasn't just a rookie sitting out. This was a coach flexing authority in the middle of an active power struggle, not just against his team ownership, but against the entire league's business machine. Ownership wanted Sanders on the field. Broadcast partners asked about his availability. Corporate sponsors were sending emails with the subject line, "Confirmed, is Shedeur playing?" Even Goodell apparently told the Browns he was key to sustaining early season momentum. Cleveland had one job, put their most valuable asset on the field. And they didn't. Now, everything is falling apart. Not because Stefanski made the wrong decision, but because he made the old school one, the kind that made perfect sense in 1995, but feels like sabotage in 2025. And that choice may have triggered a ripple, effect the NFL has no way to contain. Because when one coach protects his philosophy, and it ends up costing the league millions, it forces a terrifying question into the spotlight. Who's really in control? And that question, it's blowing up inside NFL boardrooms, because what comes next could change how every team in the league is allowed to operate. When Kevin Stefanski benched Shedeur Sanders, he wasn't just thinking like a coach, he was defending a dying tradition. The NFL sideline has always been sacred ground. Personnel decisions, that's where the clipboard wins, where depth charts matter, where development trumps headlines. Coaches have built careers on following that philosophy. But in 2025, that philosophy is under full-blown attack. The moment Sanders didn't take the field, it exposed more than just a bad call. It exposed a growing rift that's been quietly building inside the league for years. Football versus fame, headsets versus hashtags, coaches vs commerce. And now, that quiet tension is exploding. Because what used to be protecting your players is starting to look a lot like sabotaging your product. Here's the reality. Stefanski may have been thinking long-term development. He may have believed resting a rookie in a meaningless preseason game was smart football. But the NFL wasn't focused on football. They were focused on viewership, clicks, sponsorship activations, and algorithm momentum, all of which vanished the second Sanders was benched. That decision didn't just cost eyeballs. It burned through ad dollars, killed content momentum, nosedived jersey sales, and worst of all, it risked breaking trust with the very fans the NFL has worked years to attract. Internally, league execs are livid. Sponsor reps are calling it reckless. International partners, who bought into the Sanders hype, are questioning future contracts. Now, what began as a coaching decision has turned into a multi-million-dollar identity crisis. And here's the real kicker. Stefanski isn't the only one. Across the league, other old-school coaches are watching closely. Some are quietly nodding in support, saying things like, "We're not here to serve TikTok. We don't build rosters based on YouTube clips. This is football, not a circus." And to them, that is the hill worth dying on. But a younger wave of coaches, they're not so sure. They see the writing on the wall, and it's flashing in bold, digital letters. In this era, quarterback brands are the team. Fandom is built on personalities, not positions. A player like Sanders doesn't just lead the offense. He is the marketing department. He's the camera focus, the ad hook, the highlight reel bait. Benching him doesn't just affect the scoreboard. It derails the franchise's entire commercial ecosystem. And make no mistake, the fans notice. Local Cleveland reporters say press conferences turned immediately hostile. Journalists were caught between defending a well-run locker room and trying to explain to viewers why the product they tuned in for didn't show up. And most fans didn't care about the reasoning. They didn't care about rotation strategy, developmental reps, or managing workload. All they saw was this. The NFL gave us a reason to show up, one reason, and it stayed on the bench. Former players piled on. Shannon Sharpe slammed the Browns for benching, the only man keeping Gen Z interested. Charles Barkley went even further, calling it the dumbest move in modern sports marketing history. Brands reacted like shareholders after a stock crash, confused, angry, panicked. Because when sponsors sign multi-million-dollar campaigns around a face, and that face doesn't appear, that's not bad luck. That's bad business. And what's even more dangerous, it's starting to look like the coaches and the league aren't just on different pages. They're not even reading the same book anymore. And that clash between strategy and storyline, between logic and leverage, just sparked something no one ever expected. The NFL might force teams to play their stars. What if your favorite team's head coach no longer had the final say on who starts? What if roster decisions weren't made in the locker room, but in a boardroom? Because after what happened that Friday night, after Shedeur Sanders didn't take the field, and the entire NFL ecosystem spiraled, something wild started happening behind closed doors. A conversation no one ever expected became very real. Insiders say that in the immediate fallout, a phrase started circulating in internal league memos, something that sounded less like a football strategy and more like an entertainment contract clause. Minimum star availability requirements. That's not coach talk. That's Hollywood language. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Within days of the Browns-Eagles disaster, sources claim top league officials, broadcast partners, and marketing directors began discussing a never-before-seen policy. One that would essentially make it mandatory for marquee players to appear in nationally televised games, regardless of team preference or coaching philosophies. Let that sink in. The NFL, the most tradition-bound league in American sports, might soon force its teams to play their stars, not for competitive reasons, but for business survival. Why? Because in today's NFL, a player like Shedeur Sanders isn't just a part of the team, he is the brand. He's the poster on the wall. He's the cover of the app. He's the reason people under 30 even bothered to turn the game on. And if a coach benches a player like that, apparently it's not a strategy issue. It's now seen as a corporate liability. According to sources, media executives weren't just furious, they were scared. Scared that the entire trajectory of their early season ratings had just crashed because of a last-minute benching. Scared they no longer have control over their own product. Scared that the league's biggest growth engine, the Gen Z audience, could disappear with a single absence. But here's the problem. If the NFL tries to enforce something like this, they won't just be altering game day lineups. They'll be shifting the entire power structure of the league. Because mandating star participation means removing autonomy from coaches. And that's explosive. Picture this: a head coach is trying to manage risk, protect a rookie from injury, play the long game. And then the league steps in and says, "Sorry, ratings are down. Sanders is in." That's not football strategy. That's box office logistics. And not surprisingly, the coaches aren't taking it lightly. Several league veterans are already pushing back privately, calling the idea insulting, a threat to integrity, and even a dangerous overstep. Because this move doesn't just limit a coach's authority. It essentially admits that the NFL is no longer just a professional sports league, it's an entertainment network. The logic from the business side is obvious. Viewers aren't watching for the next man up. They're not here for depth chart surprises or coaching experiments. They're here for names. They're here for Sanders. They're here for Mahomes, for Lamar, for Burrow, for viral stories and Instagram moments. That's the reality, and the league has known it for a while. But now they're trapped in it. And if they start mandating who plays when and why, it opens a Pandora's box so massive, even the commissioner's office isn't fully prepared for what might come next. First issue, the NFL Players Association. Because a rule like this doesn't just affect coaches, it affects labor rights. Reports say the NFLPA has already flagged the conversations about star mandates and is preparing to respond. Think about the questions this raises. Does this mean a rookie has different obligations than a 10-year vet? What if a coach wants to rest a player for long-term development, but the league overrides it? Who's responsible if a mandated appearance leads to an injury? Do players now have a legal right to decline branding-based participation? None of those questions have clear answers. And yet, behind the scenes, the pressure is mounting. Because right now, the NFL is being pulled in two completely different directions. On one side, the coaches and the old guard football minds, trying to preserve control and build sustainable teams. On the other, the league office, the ad buyers, the networks, people staring at spreadsheets that just lost millions of impressions because one 22-year-old didn't walk onto the field. And here's where it gets even crazier. This whole thing may have actually given Shedeur Sanders more power than anyone predicted. Because if just one missed appearance tanked the league's performance across every major metric, what happens when it's contract time? What happens when it's CBA season? What happens when players realize they don't need the league? The league needs them. That's leverage no rookie was ever supposed to have. And Shedeur didn't even ask for it. And now, thanks to one benching, the NFL is waking up to a nightmare even worse than losing a few million viewers. They're realizing that their entire business model might rest on one player, and if he's not there, everything collapses. No one wanted to say it out loud, not at the NFL offices, not on the broadcast networks, not even inside the Browns organization. But after what happened the night Shedeur Sanders didn't play, there's no more denying it. The NFL is no longer built on football, it's built on moments. And Shedeur was the moment. His absence didn't just cause a dip in ratings. It didn't just frustrate fans. It broke the system that keeps the league running, one small decision exposing a terrifying truth. Without Sanders, the NFL doesn't just lose some attention. It loses everything. Let's break it down. From the second Sanders wasn't listed as active, cameras started searching the sideline. The announcers hesitated. Social media paused. Fans stared at their phones, waiting for some kind of explanation. But there was none. He was active, he was healthy. He just wasn't going to play. And just like that, people began logging off. By the time the broadcast hit halftime, the viewership had already collapsed. NFL executives were dialing each other mid-game. Emergency meetings were scheduled before the final whistle. Because nobody was talking about the game. They were talking about what wasn't there. No highlight moments. No viral clips. No rewinds. No quotes. No spark. Social platforms froze. The NFL's algorithms, usually lit up by Sanders' content, flatlined. TikTok, which had just pulled 47 million impressions during his preseason debut, now had nothing trending from the game. Reels tanked. Hashtag engagement evaporated. NFL Shop visits plummeted by over 40% in 72 hours. That's not just a bad night. That's a seismic disruption to the NFL's business model. Let's be clear, Shedeur Sanders isn't just a quarterback. He's a traffic engine, and in 2025, traffic is currency. He turns meaningless games into content, turns throwaway moments into viral gold. When he plays, everything surrounding him pops. Betting platforms, fantasy football streams, reaction channels, jersey sales, and international streams. The spotlight doesn't dim, it explodes. And when he doesn't show up, it doesn't just flicker. It shuts off. Fans didn't get quieter. Sponsors didn't wait to see how the future plays out. They bylaid. Streaming partners started reviewing commitments. Retail merch partners froze holiday rollouts. Networks told graphics teams to make 2 versions of packages going forward, one with Sanders and one without. Let's stop right there. Think about how insane that is. A rookie quarterback, just a few weeks into his NFL career, now requires media companies to create alternate timelines based on whether or not he plays. That is unheard of. Mahomes didn't need that his first year. Neither did Burrow, Lamar, or even Herbert. But with Sanders, it's essential. Why? Because unlike any other rookie we've seen, he doesn't operate inside the NFL's system. He's got his own. His own audience. His own viral reach. His own influence on markets the NFL could barely tap before he arrived. You think that's an exaggeration? Look at what happened internationally. In South America, streams dropped by 35% overnight. In Germany, digital engagement surrounding Browns games vanished. In Asia, comments flooded NFL-related pages asking questions like, "Is it normal for the most advertised player to not even play?" That's not frustration. That's a broken expectation. For years, the NFL sold itself as the gold standard of sporting integrity. You tune in, and you're guaranteed a professional, product-first experience. But now, audiences are wondering if they can trust the product at all. Because one name changed everything. And it gets worse. In the aftermath of the benching, gambling platforms, which are now deeply tied to the NFL's revenue strategy, saw one of the worst Friday night drops in prop betting volume since legalization. FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM all reported 60% plus decreases in player-based bets, almost entirely due to Sanders sitting out. Insiders called it a market-wide vacuum. Fantasy apps saw users abandon contests mid-draft. Reddit fantasy threads got lit up, not with stats, but anger. Not because the Browns lost. Not because someone played poorly. But because the NFL didn't deliver the product people came for. And here comes the scary part. It's only preseason. This wasn't a 4th and goal playoff game. This was week 17. This wasn't January football. This was a low-stakes test run, a dress rehearsal. And even here, the Sanders dependency crippled everything. Now imagine it during the regular season. Or worse, imagine he gets injured. Offline, executives are already gaming out that nightmare scenario. What if he tears an ACL? What if he's out 6 weeks? What if the Browns bench him again without notice? What if he's not in for prime time next month? Because now, the stakes are sky high. Shedeur is no longer just the future. He's the present business interest of the entire league. NFL Shop, he drives it. Marketing activations, built around him. Digital platform growth, entirely boosted by him. Global expansion to non-traditional NFL markets, he's the face. And all of that rides on one young man not missing a game. Think about how insane that is. The NFL is a 100-year-old institution, a billion-dollar machine. And yet, its most critical commercial dependency has become a 22-year-old rookie with 0 NFL wins. That's not branding. That's structural fragility. And executives know it. At least one major ad agency reportedly reached out to the league with a very simple, very cold email. What's your contingency plan if Sanders doesn't play? No excitement, no storytelling, just risk mitigation. And right now, there isn't a contingency plan. Because the league wasn't prepared for any of this. One coaching decision, maybe an ego play, maybe just a cautious call, exposed something deeper. The illusion that the NFL is bulletproof. Because if you can lose millions in revenue, tank every digital platform, destroy brand metrics, kill betting momentum, and lose international engagement, all from one inactive player sheet, then maybe the NFL was never in control to begin with. Maybe they just got lucky, until now. The craziest thing, the Browns won that game. They executed their game plan, rolled out solid defensive stops, played smart football. From a football standpoint, it was everything you want out of a preseason matchup. But no one cared. Because they didn't come for football. Not anymore. Modern fans don't root for logos. They root for moments. They root for narratives they can share, for highlight-worthy energy, for storylines they can follow from high school all the way to the pros. And that story was gone the second Sanders stayed on the sideline. Even worse, that loss of attention wasn't temporary. It bled into the days, the data, the dollars. The Browns may have walked off the field with a win on the scoreboard. But the league walked away with something far more damaging, proof. And unlike opinions or speculation, proof doesn't go away. And that proof, the kind you can't spin away in a press release, has the NFL asking a soul-crushing question. Who's really in charge now? Because after Sanders broke the system just by not showing up, the league may never hold the power again. All it took was one decision. A rookie quarterback didn't play, and the entire league cracked down the middle. The Cleveland Browns may have won that preseason game, but the NFL stumbled into a full-blown identity crisis, one that's bigger than ratings, bigger than business, and harder to fix than anyone imagined. Because here's the truth, no one's saying publicly yet, but everyone inside the league is starting to whisper. The power in the NFL has shifted. And it's not in the hands of the coaches. It's not even with the teams. Right now, in 2025, the most powerful person in football might not be wearing a headset or sitting in a luxury box. It's a 22-year-old rookie named Shedeur Sanders. And nobody saw it coming this fast. For decades, control in the NFL has followed a strict path. League officials make the rules. Owners build the teams. Coaches run the rosters. Players fill the roles. But now, that entire hierarchy is being tested. Because when one decision by one coach triggers international backlash, tanked ad campaigns, frozen retail rollouts, crashing viewership, and front office panic, it's no longer about football decisions. It's about who holds the keys to the machine. And right now, it's not the NFL,